Hello from the Public Disclosure Commission. This tutorial will provide instructions and tips for first-time filers of the Personal Financial Affairs Statement, known as the F-1. The Personal Financial Affairs Statement is filed to help the public assess whether officials are acting in the public interest rather than for private gain. Filing the F-1 also gives officials an opportunity to annually review their financial affairs and be more sensitive to subjects that could be perceived as conflicts of interest. As you are filling it out, it can be helpful to remember this purpose. Something to know right up front is that the F-1 will not ask for your Social Security number or account numbers, and you will usually only be asked to report approximate values that are over specific dollar amount thresholds. You'll see what I mean as we go along. As a first-time filer of the F-1, you can begin at the PDC website, pdc.wa.gov, and click File Online. This will take you to the Forms and Reports directory. Scroll down to F-1 Personal Financial Affairs Statement and click File Now. You will be directed to log in using Secure Access Washington, which is used to access many state agency services. If you don't already have a SAW account, you can watch our SAW video to learn how to create one. After logging in through SAW, you will arrive at the PDC electronic filing page. Select File on the card labeled Financial Affairs Disclosure. You are now in the application. You will see New Filer in the upper right corner because the system doesn't know who you are yet. Click Start. Now you'll see an overview page. There will be overview pages throughout the application, and though you may be tempted to skim the text, it's very important that you carefully read these pages. The information is critical, and many of the questions we receive at the PDC are the result of people missing information on these pages. While we're talking about slowing down, this is a good time to mention that you don't need to complete this report in one sitting. You'll have opportunities to save your progress. Take your time and read the full application, and you'll do just fine. When you've read the overview, click Next. Now enter your name to see if the PDC already has information about you. If nothing comes up about you, just click the button to acknowledge that before you click Next. You may get a list of names similar to the one you entered. Here we see B.A. Winner, our imaginary filer, is already in the system. That's because they recently decided to run for mayor and already registered as a candidate with the PDC. You will confirm your name, and then you will be asked if you currently hold or have recently held a public position. Now, before we go further, notice this panel on the right shows you where you are in the application. You'll have a panel like this all the way through the process. This video is for new filers. Since you're a new filer, you're probably watching this because you're either a candidate who has not held a public position or someone recently appointed to a position. If you are not currently holding a public position, you will say no and move on. But if you were appointed to fill a vacancy in an office or board, you will say yes, you are holding a public position, and you'll fill out the information for that position. Let's assume B.A. Winner is a candidate for the 2027 election, but is not holding a public office. We'll say no, not holding a public position now. Now the application will ask if you're a candidate. In this case, the system knows that B.A. Winner is a candidate for mayor because they already registered with the PDC. B.A. Winner can add another candidacy with the plus sign, edit this candidacy with the pencil icon, or delete it with the trash can. Remember, this is asking about offices you are running for, not offices you are currently holding. When you're done, click Next. An error message popped up that says the information is incomplete. If you get an error, click Fix It, and it will show you in red what you need to fix. In this case, an email address is missing. This next helpful screen is telling you the reporting requirement based on the information you provided about yourself. It shows you the time period you must report on, which is very important to know as you answer the questions going forward. When you're ready, you can click Start Disclosure Statement. This page explains the categories you'll be working through. The sections are also listed in the navigation panel on the right, with the gray area that shows where you are in the application. You have buttons at the bottom to go back to the previous page or save your work and finish later. And at the top, you'll often see the time period you are reporting on. This important sentence tells you that for every section, you need to provide information about you, the filer, your spouse or registered domestic partner, and any dependents. The next screen gives you the opportunity to import your most recent F-1. As a first-time filer, you don't have anything to import, but next time you file, it will be much easier because of this function. Now we start the income section, where you'll report your income and income to your qualified family members. Here you disclose things like wages, pay for an elective office, Social Security or military retirement payments, and a few other types of income. You do not include income from investment-type retirement accounts, such as the Washington State Public Retirement Systems. Those will come up later in the Assets section. The first income section is for employment income, such as wages, commissions, or stock options from your employment. It's important to notice the threshold of $2,400 or more, not per month, but during the entire time period. If you or a qualified family member had employment income of $2,400 or more during the time period listed at the top, say yes. Now you'll provide the details for each source of income to each person. Notice the drop-down menu to indicate who each entry pertains to. After selecting the individual, you simply enter the information the form asks for. I want to point out that throughout the application, there will be drop-down menus to select dollar amount ranges. The next screen reviews what you entered for the first employment income source. If everything looks correct, you can add your next source of employment income using the green button. If you need a reminder about what to include in this section, you can click the question mark. You can use the trash can icon to delete the income you just entered, or you can use the pencil icon to edit. Let's move on. The next section is retirement income. Remember that investment-type retirement pensions are not listed here, but will come up later under Assets. Social Security retirement and military retirement are two types of income that do go in this section. Always look for the dollar amount threshold for the section. Again, you'll need to indicate who the income is paid to. Here you see BA winner's spouse receives Social Security retirement. Notice BA winner chose a range of income from a drop-down menu. The next screen reviews the entry, and here is that question mark icon to help you. You can use the green button to add another retirement income. The last income section is about miscellaneous sources that are more uncommon. Just read the list carefully and notice the threshold. One thing you might enter in this section is unemployment compensation. BA winner received some unemployment during the reporting period. They can edit the information on the review screen, add another source, or move along. Next comes the Financial Assets and Interest Income section. There are a variety of different thresholds in this section. First, you're asked to report bank accounts for you or qualified family members in which the balance was over $24,000 at any time during the reporting period. If the bank account is shared by you, your spouse or domestic partner and/or dependent, you would indicate that by choosing all the appropriate boxes. Here you see BA winner has a checking account they share with their spouse. You'll provide the highest balance and the interest earned during the reporting period using the drop-down menu of dollar ranges. If you have another account shared with the same person at the same institution, you can use the Add Another Account button to put that in. BA Winner has added a savings account they share with their spouse. You'll review the entry for accuracy. From here, you can add a different institution where you have an account. BA Winner has just the 2 accounts at Olympia Credit Union, so we'll move on to insurance policies. What we're looking for here are insurance policies that have a cash equity or loanable value over $24,000. This would be universal or whole life policies that you can borrow or loan against. Do not report term life insurance here because you don't have access to that while you are alive. Let's say no and move on. This next section is about investment accounts for which you do not make the day-to-day buy and sell decisions. You may have given the company some initial direction for investing, but you don't make the decisions about which exact stocks, bonds, or securities are invested in. This page lists common accounts to report. If you contribute to a Washington State public retirement system, you're going to enter your account information in this section. Notice you are reporting accounts that had a value of over $2,400 at any point during the time period. BA Winner is a former state employee who left money in the retirement system, so they have listed that information, including the dollar value range obtained from the Department of Retirement Systems that is considered to be their account. Remember that each time there is a summary screen like this, you can add, edit, delete, or move on. Next, enter any publicly traded stocks, bonds, or commodities valued over $2,400. Include the types of accounts listed here, even if they were held during only a portion of the reporting period. For each item, you will need the highest value during the period and, if appropriate, the amount of income from them. Don't include investments not publicly traded here. Let's say yes to this so you can see what this looks like. Now what you need to do here is enter the information about a stock and then click Add. Each time you enter information on a stock, you'll click Add at the end. Don't forget these handy question mark symbols. This question mark gives you some tips. Here are BA Winners stocks. We can see a summary on the next screen as usual. The next 2 screens are about less common investments and assets. You're probably getting the hang of this by now. If you do have something to report here, entering the information is fairly self-explanatory. Let's spend a few minutes on Washington real estate. This section pertains to land, structures, and mineral rights valued over $12,000 and located in Washington State. There are a couple of things to know here. First, there is an exemption that allows people who hold certain offices to refrain from reporting their personal residences. State law exempts judges, prosecutors, and sheriffs from disclosing information that might reveal their residences. A few other people have applied for and been granted by the PDC what we call a reporting modification that exempts them from reporting their residence due to a hardship. This screen is going to ask if either of those situations apply to you. Now in a minute I'll show you your options for reporting the specifics on your real estate, but notice here that you should not use rural routes or box numbers to identify your property. And there are 3 questions to consider before you move on. If you or a qualified family member need to report property in Washington, click Yes and report the details. BA Winner has entered details for a property they own with their spouse. They've chosen to use address, not a rural route or box number, of course, but they could have chosen parcel number or legal description. Regarding that property, BA Winner must report whether it was purchased or sold during the reporting period, and then disclose whether the property had a mortgage. Since there was a mortgage, the details have been provided: lender, terms of the mortgage, the original loan amount, and the current amount. Again, ranges of dollars chosen from the drop-down menu. Next, you can edit that mortgage information, add another mortgage, or move on to another property in Washington. In the debt section, we're looking for personal debts of $2,400 or more owed to any creditor by you or a qualified family member. Do not include credit card debt, and don't include debts owed by a business you own unless you're personally liable for it. Finally, don't include mortgage debt because you already reported that under real estate. Now, the exception is property you own outside of Washington State. Out-of-state property goes in this section if the remaining mortgage is $2,400 or more. BA Winner is reporting their auto loan. You report information on the lender, the terms of the loan, the original amount financed, and the amount still owing. On the summary screen, you check your work, edit it, add another creditor, or review information under the question mark icon. By now, this is probably looking pretty familiar, and hopefully you're feeling confident. Now we think about business and organizational interests. Remember, the intent is to help you think about potential conflicts of interest and let the public know whether those exist. You should think about organizations in which you or a qualified family member own a 10% or greater financial interest, and organizations for which you serve as an officer, director, partner, or trustee. Don't include any elected or appointed office that is your reason for filing this disclosure form. This overview page explains which information you need to have ready to report. First, you report on business interests. Consider that if you're running for or holding office, the public will want to know if you own a business that could benefit from your election or appointment to office. If you or a qualified family member own a 10% or greater interest in a business, you'll be asked for the details. I want to point out here that regarding payments made to the business from the government agency connected to your office, you'll be asked to provide more exact figures than you've been reporting so far. I also want to emphasize that Washington real estate reported in this section is real estate owned by your business, not by you or your family members. In the Other Relationships section, you'll report relationships that may raise concern about conflict of interest. These may be volunteer positions. Remember, you don't have to report the position you are holding or seeking. Sometimes the PDC gets questions from people who hold positions for nonprofits about whether they need to report grants to those nonprofits. The answer is no. You don't need to report grants or gifts from businesses or government agencies. What you do need to report for your nonprofit are payments for goods or services. I'll show you what it looks like if you say yes to this question. B.A. Winner's spouse is vice president of the Olympia Fine Arts Association. They had to report general information about the organization and information on whether that association received any payments. Any payment from a government agency where B.A. Winner seeks or holds a position must be reported. Payments from other sources need only be reported if they are $12,000 or more. Here we review for accuracy, edit if we need to, or report another relationship. In the lobbying section, you'll report any compensation for lobbying, including things like salary, legal fees paid, or travel costs paid for that lobbying work. Let's say no and finish up filing this form. The last thing you will do is provide the names of any qualified family members you mentioned somewhere in the report. B.A. Winner attributed some items to a spouse, so they need to add the spouse's name. Because nothing was disclosed for a dependent, they don't need to provide a dependent name. At the very end, the system will tell you if there are any problems. If errors are mentioned on this screen, click Fix It and you'll be taken to the problem areas. Remember, you can use the navigation panel on the right to move around the form. It's usually easier than hitting the Previous or Next buttons. Once everything looks good, you'll be given one last chance to review it. At this point, if you see something you want to edit, you'll need to go to it using the navigation panel and edit from there. To submit the finished report, click Certify, then type the words I certify, fill in the other information, and click Submit. Your statement will be pending PDC review for up to 2 days. Once the PDC has verified your report, this line that is under Unverified Reports will move down to the Prior Reports section. You are finished for this year. And next time you file the Personal Financial Affairs disclosure, it will be even easier. Now, one more thing. What if you need to change the report for some reason? You're going to begin where you did the first time. On the Financial Affairs Disclosure card, click File. This time, instead of clicking Start, choose View Previous Financial Affairs Disclosure. View the report you want to amend, click Amend or Create Report, and say that you want to make a correction. Once in the previously filed report, use the navigation panel to travel around and make your changes, and then certify and submit the form like you did before. That's all for now. Thank you for your interest in correctly filing the Personal Financial Affairs Statement. Please reach out to the PDC if you need further assistance. Have a good day.